Shalom Israel, we're about to get it started right now as soon as we get up close to the stage. All right. Test mic. Okay, what's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday evening once again, and we're going over world history, talking about Saul, the first king over Israel. So all this history is found within the book of 1 Samuel. So we're going to begin in 1 Samuel chapter 8, but just to kind of give you a preface from the last lessons that we was doing history-wise, we was in the book of Judges up to chapter 15. We'll probably get through that, the rest of that another time, but just understanding the time and the atmosphere of the setup for, Saul becoming a king. So again, at this time, we're just coming out basically of the Judges, and Samuel from the book of 1st and 2nd Samuel is actually the last judge officially over Israel. And there's a difference between a judge, like Moses, and a priest like Aaron, and then a king. And that becomes very apparent in the accounts that Samuel is actually going to make. So as we go on, we're going to explain those important differences as we, get through this history. So without further ado, tonight, let's actually start 1 Samuel chapter, not even chapter 8. Chapter 8, and we can start at verse, let me see. Yeah, we can start at verse 1.
This is the first book of Samuel, chapter 8 and verse 1. And it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second, Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba.
So Samuel himself, who was ordained by the Most High to be a judge, no different than Jephthah, Gideon, and Samson, he now, begins instructing his own kids that he has to become the new judges over Israel. Again, not kings, because, again, someone's got to carry on the legacy and the torch to carry on. But, again, this wasn't of the Most High's choosing. Samuel just decided that his kids would be doing that. Read on.
Verse 3. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre, and took bribes, and perverted judgment.
So his sons was not doing the right thing, even though they seen who his dad was, who his father was, and I'm sure they had all the teachings in the world about the lawfulness of the Most High God, but his sons was not walking in the ways of the Lord. So again, these kids were not particularly ordained by the Most High for this job and this task. They were basically just like everybody else in Israel, still figuring things out, getting things together, and walking willfully in their own iniquities and ways that leads to, a destructive lifestyle. Read on.
Verse 4. And all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together, and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
So this is a defining point. So the elders, who should know better, they decide that now we have something to point the fingers at about you and your sons that are supposed to be the new judges over all Israel. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. So now what we want is we actually want a king over us, not a judge, a king over us, just like the other nations. And Samuel is about to explain to them, this thing that you asked for is not going to go well from you, for you. He's going to explain exactly why and reiterate himself, later as the passage goes. But again, there's a difference between the roles and expectations of a king than what the roles and expectations of the judges are. And so we're about to find out right now. You can read verse 6.
Verse 6. But the thing displeased Samuel, when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord, Verse 7. And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people in all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them.
So now the Most High himself is making it a point and a staple to say, like, look, this thing that the people have done, this is of their own, will and error. So they don't want me, and this is Yahweh speaking, they don't want me to be the king over them. Because, again, Samuel and all the judges before, they weren't kings. They were just judges. They judged manners and let the people, all the tribes of Israel, go about, their daily tasks and days within their respective territories as a judge. He was just the one that gave forth the will of the Most High. The Most High himself was the king. And as we're going to learn and understand what a king does, we're going to see exactly why and how the Most High was a king through history, and then what the fleshly and earthly king in Israel and Saul would be doing. So read on.
Verse 8. According to all thy works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee.
So again, the Most High making the point known that Israel, no matter what they keep going through, and they see the goodness of the judges sent from the Most High Yahweh, they still keep messing up and keep wanting to be like these other nations that serve their gods and have their kings and just be worldly like the other peoples on the earth. Israel always had wanted to be like that, and you read that all throughout the book of Judges. That's why we kept getting righteous and getting right and then falling back into sin, particularly for worshiping other gods. So this is the same pattern, and now we were saying, now we just want a king because your kids are messed up, so clearly, the Most High is not doing what he said he would do. And that's just the reality with Israel. Read on.
Verse 9. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and shew them the manner of the king that shall reign over them.
So now Samuel's about to explain to the people what an actual king looks like in comparison to a judge. And understanding, too, the Most High was the original king over Israel. But now Israel wants a fleshly king. So this is going to be the major difference. Read on.
And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king. And he said, This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen. And some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands, and captains over fifties, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war, and instruments of his chariots. Verse 13. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. Verse 15. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants.
Okay, so pause right there. So are y'all following along? A lot of this is already starting to sound familiar, especially what we just read right now. It says the king is going to take a tenth. It says a tenth of your seed and your vineyards and give them to his people, his officers. Because just previously, we just read that he's taking people, he's taking lands to himself, he's taking tenths of your own land that was left for you. These are all the things that the king is going to leave for you. The best picture I can give it to you as is like this. So America, there's federal level government, and then there's state level governments. The federal level is above the state level. The states are supposed to, operate and run themselves. But a federal level basically governs all that and taxes all those individual states. Same thing with the 12 tribes. You got 12 states or 12 tribes of Israel that originally, the way it was set down, they were just supposed to give those tenths of the crops and the best of the animals to the Levites. But again, the Levites never required confectionaries of your daughters, a certain amount, or servants for your sons. Now this federal kingship is taking part of the inheritance of each of the 12 tribes to make basically, I don't know the word which you call it, but basically the kingship, pretty much. The kingship over the self-autonomy of the 12 tribes. That's what's happening right now. So the parallel is this. The Most High originally being the king over us, that's why he gave the things that he said to give to the Levites. And then the Most High will be the one to be doing all the fighting for us while the Levites just kind of interceded. Now we have that with the Levites. We're still offering to the Most High because those were the laws and rules. And now we're giving extra stuff to this king that Israel asked for themselves. So more of a burden, more of a servitude, and more, I guess, individual loss and autonomy or self-governing is being given now to the request of having a king. Read on from 16.
Verse 16. And he will take your menservants and your maidservants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work. He will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you. And the Lord will not hear you in that day.
Because that's what they asked for. All this extra, having a king is good, but now you're losing more of your, again, self-governingship, the little that you already had under the Yemosai and the Levites. But now you have a king as an extra buffer for all that. Read on.
Verse 19, nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, nay, but we will have a king over us.
All because they didn't trust Samuel's sons that messed up. They messed up as judges. So now they just went completely left and was like, nah, we're going to operate just like the nations around us. We're going to have real military, real warrior stuff that we can actually see, rather than knowing from history and times that have come to pass that the Most High fights in a supernatural type of way, not always just with the sword of men, but extra. But that wasn't enough for Israel. So jump down to 22.
Verse 22, and the Lord said to Samuel, hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go ye every man unto his city.
So this is the setup. And chapter 9, we introduce ourselves to the origins, the beginning of who Saul was, his family lineage, and all that. So you can actually start that.
9:1.
Yes, sir.
Now there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Becheroth, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power.
So this man named Kish, who's well known amongst his tribe, and I'm sure amongst the other tribes of Israel, said he was a mighty man, especially considering already what we read about in the last portions of the book of Judges, how mighty that the Benjamins actually were alone without the Most High. And it was needed for the Most High for all the other tribes of Israel to actually cut them down, because Benjamin at one point in time rebelled against all the other tribes of Israel because they wanted to keep wickedness going on within their communities. And the Most High eventually was just like, all right, nah, no more of that. So he's a product of that history, somewhat humbling, but the people knew what the blood and the Benjamites had within themselves. They were warriors, and that's even a prophecy in Genesis about Benjamin being likened to a wolf. As a group and a pack mentality, they would rip to shreds everything in their path, and yet at the same time distribute that to those that they cared for and loved. Territorial and familial was the tribe of Benjamin, the spirit within them, and that's where this man comes from. Read on.
Verse 2, and he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice young man, and a goodly, and there was not among the children of Israel a goodlier person than he. From his shoulders and upward, he was higher than any of the people.
So this is talking about not particularly the heart or the character and spirit of Saul, but just his more fleshly and carnal nature. And everybody understands and knows too, and can appreciate and respect when it comes to either feminine traits or masculine traits. Saul was like the man's man. Like they said he was taller than the rest of the Israelites. He was broad shoulders, The descendant of, a powerful man already in the tribe of Benjamin. He was, I guess as you say, he was like your alpha male type. So he had that appearance, he had that look about him to go and be chosen, for this instance, to be a king over Israel. But it's interesting because you got to understand the Most High, and we're going to get into this, the Most High made Saul king over Israel first as a punishment to the children of Israel. So all that isn't always what's necessary and needed. You need more than just the physical strength. You need the spiritual strength too, as we're going to see whether Saul had that or not to keep a kingdom in his name. Read on from verse 3.
And the asses of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. And Kish said to Saul his son, take now one of the servants with thee, and arise, go seek the asses. And he passed through Mount Ephraim, and passed through the land of Shalisha, but they found them not. Then they passed through the land of Shalem, and there they were not. And he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they found them not.
Jump down to verse 7. So they're looking for, daily tasks, the lost donkeys of their father. And, they went astray. But this is all because the will of the Most High is, orchestrating the life of Saul right now. Read from verse 7.
Verse 7. Then said Saul to his servant, but behold, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread is spent in our vessels, and there is not a present to bring to the man of God. What have we?
So they knew and were aware that there were certain characters and peoples within Israel that were considered seers or prophets, that could tell and give you information about things that you needed, from the small, such as a situation like this, to the great, as far as, is it right for Israel to go to war against this nation? They went to go see a man that had connection to the Most High for this wisdom and truth and honesty. And that man actually happened to be Samuel, as we read on. So you can read verse 9, just to explain exactly what I just said.
Skip 8.
Yeah.
Verse 9. Before time in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, thus he spake, come, and let us go to the seer. For he that is now called a prophet was before time called a seer. Then said Saul to his servant, well said, come, let us go. So they went unto the city where the man of God was.
So now they're looking for Samuel to help out his father. Jump down to verse 15. So now this is Samuel a day before, being that he's a seer. The Most High knows what he's doing when he's setting up. He has a heads up a day before about who he's about to run into today. Verse 15.
Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear a day before Saul came, saying, tomorrow about this time I will send thee a man out of the land of Benjamin, and thou shalt anoint him to be captain over my people Israel, that he may save my people out of the hand of the Philistines. For I have looked upon my people, because their cry is come unto me. And when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said unto him, behold, the man whom I spake to thee of, this same shall reign over my people. Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate, and said, tell me, I pray thee, where the seer's house is. And Samuel answered Saul and said, I am the seer. Go up before me unto the high place, for ye shall eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let thee go, and will tell thee all that is in thine heart.
So now Samuel's basically explained to Saul from this point, they're eating lunch together, dinner, and he's basically going to explain to him, hey, the Most High told me that you're about to be king over all Israel. And, Saul is like just doesn't even know about this at all. This is just like it just drops on him. He's a little nervous at first too. Go to verse 21. Read that.
And Saul answered and said, am not I a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel? And my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Wherefore then speakest thou so to me?
But it didn't matter, because that's the way that the Most High wanted to orchestrate and get his point across. Because again, all the children of Israel cried out wanting a king, wanting a king over them. And so the Most High found someone and gave them an exact reflection of where their hearts was at, where their minds was at, and we're going to see from there. So basically, you know, he gets anointed. Saul gets anointed. They end that meeting. Saul tells him, you know, tomorrow, basically, I'm going to officially ordain you as king amongst the people so that all will know. Go to chapter 10 and read from verse 1 and 2.
Then Samuel took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head and kissed him and said, Is it not because the Lord have anointed thee to be captain over his inheritance? When thou art departed from me today, then thou shalt find 2 men by Rachel's sepulchre in the border of Benjamin at Zelzah, and they will say unto thee, The asses which thou wentest to seek are found, and lo, thy father hath left the care of the asses, and sorroweth for you, saying, What shall I do for my son?
All right. So basically, again, Samuel is explaining to Saul that, look, okay, your asses are going to come back, and after you do that, these things are going to happen to you. I'm going to exalt you among the people. The Spirit of the Lord is going to come upon you, and you're going to start prophesying just like you was one of the prophets. And to see that, for one, the sight of a seer or a prophet at that time was a fearful thing, because a seer and a prophet could tell you about things about yourself, things about you that you needed to do, as well as things that would come to pass from some of your actions. So these were people that were respected, revered, and even feared within the 12 tribes of Israel. So for Saul to take on some of those attributes, which Samuel said that he would, it was something that's going to, again, propel him and exalt him amongst the people. So this is all prophecies that Samuel is giving Saul. So we're going to just get into what actually happened. So you could jump down to verse 9.
And it was so that when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, God gave him another heart, and all those signs came to pass that day. And when they came thither to the hill, behold, a company of prophets met him, and the Spirit of God came upon him, and he prophesied among them. And it came to pass, when all that knew him before time saw that, behold, he prophesied among the prophets. Then the people said one to another, What is this that is come unto the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? And one of the same place answered and said, But who is their father? Therefore it became a proverb. Is Saul also among the prophets?
So again, his fame, which the Most High does when he wants people to look at you and to respect you, his fame begins to become known amongst the people and the tribes of Israel. So again, to officially ordain him. Because a lot of times Israel, which we're going to see around too, Israel doesn't really care for authority or leadership. Israel, much like, you know, the Gentiles in the world, want to just kind of live their own life, you know, self-govern, and not want to have a head above them. But sometimes the Most High, to get that thought out of people's heads or to unharden people's hearts, he's got to give the people that he wants to use, you know, to serve him, he's got to give them some type of extraordinary type of ability that people can't just normally capitalize on. So that's what he did with Saul and having him prophesy amongst the prophets, you know, a day later. Jump down to you can read from verse 14.
And Saul's uncle said unto him and to his servant, Whither went ye? And he said, To seek the asses. And when we saw that they were nowhere, we came to Samuel. And Saul's uncle said, Tell me, I pray thee, what Samuel said unto you. And Saul said unto his uncle, He told us plainly that the asses were found, but of the matter of the kingdom whereof Samuel spake, he told him not.
So this is all like a couple days later from Saul being sent to go find those donkeys. Read on.
And Samuel called the people together unto the Lord to Mizpah, and said unto the children of Israel, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt and delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of all kingdoms and of them that oppressed you. And ye have this day rejected your God, who himself saved you out of all your adversities and your tribulations. And ye have said unto him, Nay, but set a king over us. Now therefore present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and by your thousands. And Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come near. The tribe of Benjamin was taken. When he had caused the tribe of Benjamin to come near by their families, the family of Matri was taken. And Saul the son of Kish was taken. And when they sought him, he could not be found. Keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Therefore they inquired of the Lord further, if the man should yet come thither. And the Lord answered, Behold, he hath hid himself among the stuff.
So Saul himself was still like not 100% confident in the task that was going to befall him, being king over Israel. So he was still fearful. He was so fearful of the matter, having this much, authority over all the tribes of Israel. And again, the Most High was like, hey, I'm about to give you exactly what y'all asked for. So that fearful nature of Saul begins, it begins to show itself in his second year and going on in his kingship, which is going to be, we all kind of know the story, but we're just going to read through with it. Start at, so it's basically Saul's anointed king at this point. And start from verse 25.
Then Samuel told the people the manner of the kingdom, and wrote it in a book, and laid it up before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, every man to his house. And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and there went with him a band of men, whose hearts God had touched. But the children of Belial said, How shall this man save us? And they despised him, and brought him no presents, but he held his peace.
So again, harking on the statement I said earlier, the sons of Belial, just people that are just wicked in general. That's what that word means. They're even like, this man can't save us. Again, a lot of times Israel people, they don't like to have that type of, you can't tell me what to do. And, that was existent from this time back then, even to today. But Saul was like, he didn't think nothing of it, at that point in time. So in chapter 11, as we're going to see, this is basically another instant where the Most High is exalting Saul amongst all the people. So you have the people, the nation of Ammon coming up against Benjamin, coming up against Israel, trying to make war. And Israel's like, can we just make a little, a peace treaty contract? And part of that contract, that Ammon was like, yeah, we can be at peace if all your people thrust out their first right eye. So go to chapter 11, and yeah, you can read 2.
And the Ammonite answered them, On this condition will I make a covenant with you, that I may thrust out all your right eyes, and lay it up for a reproach upon all Israel. And the elders of Jabesh said unto him, Give us 7 days respite, that we may send messengers unto all the coast of Israel. And then, if there be no man to save us, we will come out to thee.
All right, so the people are kind of just like, you know what? Give us 7 days to think about that. Your request, it's a little harsh, but it might be better than you going to war with us. So it's crazy because of all the battles that the Most High initially mainly fought for Israel. Israel, we still see no different than Samuel when he was too scared to present himself amongst the people. Israel is always scared of these other nations and such like that. The other nations, the other gods that they worship and stuff like that. Israel is, like a scared little kid generally during this time, and it shows. So they asked for 7 days respite to kind of figure out, what are we going to do? Are we going to really pluck out our eyes just for peace? It sounds like a good idea. It's not too much, So that's going on for 7 days. But read in verse 3. And then, Saul is going to hear this, and then something's going to happen to him amongst the fear. Oh, reverse 4.
Then came the messengers of Gibeah of Saul, and told the tidings in the ears of the people. And all the people lifted up their voices and wept. And behold, Saul came after the herd out of the field. And Saul said, What aileth the people that they wept? And they told him the tidings of the man of Jabesh. And the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard those tidings, and his anger was kindled greatly.
And we don't got to read this because it's a lot and we, spend for time. But basically, the Spirit of the Lord comes upon Saul, and he gets so mad, he kills a calf and splits it up and be like, look, I'm going to send this to all the tribes of Israel. Anybody that doesn't come up and, fight with us against the Ammonites that gave us this type of statement, I'm going to do the same thing to your cattle. So, again, this is one of the other things that the Most High put upon Saul so the people would believe him and being king, so that he would be exalted. They feared, his statements and worshiped the Most High at the same time. Because, again, too, Samuel, who they knew was a judge and a man of the Most High, was the one who anointed him. But again, Israel always needs that confirmation because our hearts are always in that little kid, yet carnal state where we don't see and believe in the spiritual matters of things, especially when they come from a spiritual authority. Again, the sons of Belial, they wasn't believing nothing. Like, we want to do our own thing. We're not trusting no top down. We're the top. But that's not the way the government of the Most High works with men. So he slew that calf and sent it all to all the children of Israel. And they're like, oh, okay, we're going to come through. Read from verse 10.
Therefore the men of Jabesh said, Tomorrow we will come out unto you, and ye shall do with us all that seemeth good unto you. And it was so on the morrow that Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the host in the morning watch, and slew the Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it came to pass that they which remained were scattered, so that 2 of them were not left together.
So Saul and his company, his people, they destroyed them. So much so that when they escaped, again, it said it wasn't even 2 of them that could walk together. They were so scattered they could only be left, as how do they say, like the phrase, like a lone sheep, which is easy for the wolf to catch. That's what happened after this battle with these Ammonites. So the Most High proved upon Saul that, yeah, he's a worthy captain, king to follow with his military. He has might to him. And you all know that about Benjamin too. Read the book of Judges. Read on.
Verse 12, And the people said unto Samuel, Who is he that said, Shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men, that we may put them to death. And Saul said, There shall not a man be put to death this day, for today the Lord hath wrought salvation in Israel. Then said Samuel to the people, Come and let us go to Gilgal, and renew the kingdom there. And all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal. And there they sacrificed sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord. And there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly.
So, with amongst the spirit of the that Saul finally accepted within himself, you see that Saul initially was a very, he loved his people. So he's like, don't even worry about the people, the sons of Belial that said that I wasn't worthy. Like, no one's going to die today. The Most High just took this battle for us using me. We're just going to celebrate. So Saul was definitely a man that was after the people's hearts, and that's all good. The scriptures say that, in the book of Sirach, get the love of the congregation. But as we're going to see, as the story continues, there's a balance to that as well, too. Sometimes you don't always have to be for the interest of other people. You got to be about the interests of the Most High above that. And then, shortly after, the people come through with that too. But if you don't have that proper head and guidance with that, you might find yourself in some positions in your own life acting like Saul. And we're going to get into those things in a moment. So now go to chapter 12. Read down. So again, Samuel reiterating the fact that, remember, this is what you guys asked for. So Samuel is doing a lot of, the Most High through Samuel is doing a lot of foreshadowing about what it is the people really got themselves into, rather than choosing the Most High as the king over them, rather than just having a judge which is going to judge the matters, and then y'all take care of your business. Read through.
Chapter 12, verse 1. And Samuel said unto all Israel, Behold, I have hearkened unto your voice in all that ye said unto me, and have made a king over you. And now, behold, the king walketh before you, and I am old and gray-headed, and behold, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my childhood until this day. Behold, here I am, witness against me before the Lord, and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Whose ass have I taken? Or whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or of whose hand have I received any bribe to blind mine eyes therewith? And I will restore it to you. And they said, Thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither hast thou taken aught of any man's hand. And he said unto them, The Lord is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that ye have not found aught in my hand. And they answered, He is witness.
So again, Samuel's explaining to him, look, at one point in time, I was the spiritual intermediary with y'all. I was the judge, you know. I wasn't a king. I didn't ask for all these things, you know, like the king would, taxing you. I also didn't do any just general wickedness or oppression to you, period. So you could have just, you know, waited upon me and waited for the Spirit of the Lord to give you another judge, but y'all asked for a king, and this is what you get. You know, you get a king just like unto yourself, which is what Saul was. Read on.
Verse 6. And Samuel said unto the people, It is the Lord that advanced Moses and Aaron, and that brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Now therefore stand still, that I may reason with you before the Lord of all the righteous acts of the Lord, which he did to you, your fathers. Jacob was come into Egypt, and your fathers cried unto the Lord. Then the Lord sent Moses and Aaron, which brought forth your fathers out of Egypt, and made them dwell in this place.
You can skip down to verse 13, because again, Samuel's just reiterating the past and knowing, letting Israel know, look, this is the Most High that did all these good things to you, and you know, why do y'all keep forgetting? But now this is what you asked for. So verse 13, behold.
Now therefore behold, the king whom ye have chosen, and whom ye have desired, and behold, the Lord hath set a king over you. Fear the Lord and serve him, and obey his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of the Lord. Then shall both ye and also the king that reigneth over you continue following the Lord your God.
Check.
Now therefore, behold, the king whom ye have chosen, and whom ye have desired, and behold, the Lord hath set a king over you. If ye will fear the Lord and serve him, and obey his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then shall both ye and also the king that reigneth over you continue following the Lord your God.
So the Most High is letting him know, if you, the people, if y'all want to be right, continue to be righteous, y'all will be prosperous and successful, and even your king will be prosperous and successful, because the king is watching over you. The more that you conduct yourselves in a good way, the better the king is going to conduct himself, because he has less to worry about y'all for. So again, Samuel's saying, the origin of this, you know, this kingship stuff came from y'all. So the way that you guys are going to act is going to dictate whether or not you're going to fall into sin, and whether or not you fall into sin is going to dictate whether or not the king you set up is going to fall into sin. So again, it all boils down to what the people, you know, the character of the people was. Yeah.
Verse 15. But if ye will not obey the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then shall the hand of the Lord be against you, as it was against your fathers. Now therefore stand and see this great thing which the Lord will do before your eyes. Is it not wheat harvest today? I will call unto the Lord, and he shall send thunder and rain, that ye may perceive and see that your wickedness is great, which ye have done in the sight of the Lord, in asking you a king.
Okay, so now Samuel is about to give the people another sign. He's about to literally ask the Most High to make thunder and rain come upon the land, and that's going to be a sign basically saying that, look, the Most High is the one that you needed to really rely upon. You didn't need a king. With the judge institution that the Most High had put into play, that was well enough. But now you guys have sinned in asking for this king for you guys. And look what you could have had previously and for that anyway. So read on.
Verse 18. So Samuel called unto the Lord, and the Lord sent thunder and rain that day. And all the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. And all the people said unto Samuel, Pray for thy servants unto the Lord thy God, that we die not. For we have added unto all our sins this evil, to ask us a king.
So the people understood at that point, all we needed was the judge. All we needed was the judge for the Most High to do the thinking for us. But now they realized, damn, we did sin and asked for this king. You know, he's about to do all these things and take all these taxes for us. And we had a direct link with the Most High, with the judge anyway. Joshua was a judge. You see the battles that he did back then. He literally just lifted his hands up and the whole heavens stopped, so it was daytime, so that all Israel can go right after the Most High did most of the work of the killing. And then Israel followed up and did the rest of the battle themselves. But that's all again because Joshua, who was a judge, asked for those things. A king isn't, the manner of a king is not to do that. The manner of a king is to work only in the flesh and the carnal aspect. You know, that's not like the priest was put aside or even the seers and the prophets, but a king that the people are looking towards, a king is not doing what Joshua or Samuel or what even Gideon and Samson was doing. That's the main difference that the people didn't realize and see at the time when they asked. Read from verse 22.
Verse 22. For the Lord will not forsake his people for his great name's sake, because it had pleased the Lord to make you his people. Moreover, as for me, God forbid that I should sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and the right way. Only fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart, for consider how great things he hath done for you. But if ye shall do wickedly, ye shall be consumed, both ye and your king.
Both ye and your king, if you do wickedly. So Samuel's like, look, okay, cool, you guys messed up. You guys got to take that L. But still, even regardless if you're messed up, just do right. I'm still going to be here. The Most High is still going to send his prophets and his seers to be here too that have that direct link. Just do right, and then you guys, will be okay, you and your king. But if you keep messing up, that's going to reflect upon your king too. So don't blame it all on your leader, because what is that scripture in Sirach they say? As the leader is, so is the people. That's all that Samuel was telling the people at this time in their sin to have a king, but still trying to give them some hope. But, they got to still go through what they go through. So this is all in that first year, all this, before chapter 13. This is all the beginning, the first year when Saul is anointed king over Israel. And when we start chapter 13, we see it's been about a year, a good year. And then the second year of his kingship comes, and then we start to see the problems that have multiplied with the king Saul, which again is a reflection of the people as well too. Chapter 13, you can start from verse 1.
Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. And the rest of the people he sent every man to his tent.
So Saul had a military of 3,000 men. 2/3 he kept with himself. The last 1/3 interesting. He kept with his son Jonathan. So his son was, you know, a high-ranking and respected military officer too, so much that he commanded a third of the army underneath Saul. Read on.
And Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Gibeah, and the Philistines heard of it. And Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard say that Saul had smitten a garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also had in abomination with the Philistines. And the people were called together after Saul to Gilgal.
Okay, Khan. So basically, all throughout this rest of the chapter 13, it's a particular battle. It's a particular battle that Israel is having, or Saul rather, is having with these Philistines. And this battle, it doesn't turn at the beginning of it is not looking good. It became so ungood looking that it scared again all the military, the people of Israel, and even shook King Saul himself too. Now his son Jonathan and his 1,000, they were in a completely different territory and different cities, so they wasn't going through what Saul and his 2,000 men was experiencing after the victory that his son had over the Philistines. So read in verse 5. So this is the retaliation of the Philistines once Jonathan and his 1,000 took out the garrisons of the Philistines in a completely different part of Israel. They came to where King Saul was now.
And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward from Bethaven.
So you seen those numbers, right? It said 30,000 chariots. That means 30,000 people are manning those chariots, if not more, as well as 6,000 horsemen. So this is about 36,000 people plus more, as we see, multitudes like the seashore that are with the Philistines. That's way more than 2,001 people, including Saul. So again, this is where we now see whose heart is with the Most High. Because when Gideon's heart was with the Most High, when he told them instructions, it was just 300 of them against a multitude of army people. But Gideon's heart didn't falter. He didn't fear. He kept and strengthened his heart and the people he had under him. But when we see Saul at this point, this is what happened when he came to that dilemma of 36,000 plus people. Read on.
Verse 6, when the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves, and in thickets, and in rocks, and in high places, and in pits. And some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling.
So all the people were scared. All the people were scared. They started to dip and leave the army. They were hiding in caves and thickets and in the mountains and high places just so they didn't have to, be in this 36,000 military men fight. So they were scared. And remember we said Saul had a heart for the people, so he obviously was feeling that anxiety and that fear in himself too. So again, as the leader is, so is the people. As the people are, so is a leader. Saul is now mirroring, through this scripture right here, he's mirroring the feelings of the people too. And this was his instructions from Samuel, connected to God, but this is how Saul took those instructions. Read from verse 8.
And he tarried 7 days, according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Saul said, "Bring hither a burnt offering to me, and peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to pass that as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came. And Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him. And Samuel said, "What hast thou done?" And Saul said, "Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that thou camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash." Therefore said I, the Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. I forced myself therefore and offered a burnt offering.
So now you see the fearfulness and the anxiety that Saul himself had, to where he didn't follow the instructions of Samuel, who Samuel himself got the instructions from the Most High God Yahweh to give to Saul, that, you know, like a chain of command. Saul was supposed to follow those things. Exactly. He was supposed to follow those orders. But, you know, he got, even on the very last day, probably on the very, literally the last hour, because as soon as Saul had made the burnt offering, then Samuel showed up. So it was like you were a hair away of waiting in patience, and you missed it just like that. You know, maybe like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but you did what you just said. You forced yourself to make the burnt offering instead of waiting for a holy man, which was Samuel, to do that. You thought that you could do that yourself, and the Most High, although working with you, is not working with you on that level. That's why you had instructions from Samuel. But Saul felt that he needed to be above that. You know, that's why he forced himself, because of the people. He said the people were scared and scattered. I'm just trying to sanctify the people and make sure the Most High is with us. Good intentions, but not the instructions from, again, a person who's above you in the spirit. Talking to Saul, talking about Saul. So that's why Samuel said, what have you done? You know, like, that's not what was the orders. That was not the commandment. Read on.
Verse 13. And Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. But now the kingdom shall not continue. The Lord hath sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord had commanded him to be a captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee.
Just as quickly as that, Samuel's now prophesying against Saul's, kingship, being like, look, I'm about to go find somebody that's of my own heart, because clearly, according to this instance and whatever else happened in the previous 2 years, you're not able to follow instructions. So the Most High can't utilize you in the way he needs to if you can't follow the Most High's instructions. I got to find somebody else. You can't just do what you think is right, you know, when you've been given instructions. So now, go to verse 17. So still, all this happened with Samuel and Saul in the midst of the Philistines, 36,000 people trying to come against them. This was all happening at the same time. So that's actually still going on. So from verse 17.
And the spoilers came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned unto the way that leadeth to Ophrah, unto the land of Shual. And another company turned the way to Beth-horon. And another company turned to the way of the border that looketh to the valley of Zeboim, toward the wilderness. Now there was no smith found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make them swords and spears. But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man his share, and his coulter, and his axe, and his mattock. Yet they had a file for the mattocks, and for the coulters, and for the forks, and for the axes, and to sharpen the goads. So it came to pass in the day of battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan, but with Saul and with Jonathan his son were there found. And the garrison of the Philistines went out to the passage of Michmash.
So that's just giving more just light as far as how just this battle is going on. So the people, after being strengthened because of Samuel's presence, even though Saul messed up, they're now ready to go to battle, even though they didn't have official battle weapons. It says that the only people that had, I guess to relate it today, the only people that had, AKs or even 9mm was just Saul and his son Jonathan. The rest of the people, they had to figure it out. They had to use basically, it said axes, shovels, gardening equipment, anything that you could just find out, in the midst of the land that you could use, because again, weapons weren't allowed to be constructed because of the Philistines' occupation of Israel. They said, you guys are not going to have no blacksmiths, so the blacksmiths cannot, make you guys weapons to rebel against us. That was one of the law policies of the Philistine occupation in this particular area. But Israel still found out a way. So I'm not even going to touch into that as far as what we're doing modern day. But don't be scared if you don't have the latest and greatest tools and technology. Just get something that can do some damage when you need to do it. The Most High and the collective effort of righteousness will be there with you, just like this point in time, 36,000 against 2,000 people. So chapter 14 basically goes into the exploits of Saul's son Jonathan, and what he had did, and how the Most High was actually with him at the point. We don't have to read the whole thing. I'm gonna just summarize it just for the sake of time. But Jonathan is basically with his armor bearer, which is basically someone that helps him out, and they go to a garrison of Philistines, about 20 or such, and they go and kill them. And as soon as they kill those garrisons of Philistines, the Most High then makes basically a trembling, as it says, or an earthquake, which makes the whole 36,000 armies of the chariots and the horsemen and all the multitudes, and makes them go nuts. And we're actually going to read that right now. But this is happening on Jonathan's side. Saul's son, chapter 14 and verse, you can start from verse 14.
And that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men, within, as it were, an half acre of land, which a yoke of oxen might plow. And there was trembling in the host, in the field, and among all the people, the garrison, and the spoilers, they also trembled, and the earth quaked. So it was a very great trembling. And the watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away, and they went on beating down one another.
So now they're looking like, oh, shoot, the Most High is doing something within the whole garrison in the battle, right after Jonathan did what he did, which is a perfect example of everything that we've seen history-wise with wars and battles in Israel. The Most High can use the smallest amount to take out the biggest amount. Just two people, Jonathan and his armor bearer, took out a whole garrison of 20 Philistines. And then that sparked the Most High to then make an earthquake to disrupt the whole host of the Philistines, and then eventually make them turn on each other, and that's not the first time, with their swords and weapons. And now Saul sees this, and now he sees an opportunity for him to come in and, I'm not going to say take the glory, but basically to clean up what Jonathan, his son, had started. So he numbers the people, and in that numbering, obviously Jonathan, his son, and his armor bearer are not with him. And that's important because straight down the way, after basically this battle is had, I'm just going to tell you, the battle was basically won with Israel under Saul. And this is what happens next. Go to read from verse 23.
So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over unto Bethaven. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, Cursed be the man that eateth any food until evening, that I may be avenged on mine enemies. So none of the people tasted any food.
So Saul makes the people take a vow, saying, like, look, until I kill every single last one of these Philistines, no one can eat, which is a completely unnecessary vow to make. Because it's like, what does that have to do with the Most High? The Most High would allow me to eat regardless, but Saul is now doing this for himself. He's like, look, this is about me. No one's gonna eat until I get what I want from this, which was the people can't eat. Again, no reason to make that vow, but being a king, the people had to follow through and listen. So his son wasn't there. Jonathan wasn't there to hear that vow. So as we read through this chapter, we're going to see that Jonathan eventually does eat when he comes back and meets up with his father and the rest of the military. And that becomes a problem because Saul's like, well, look, I made the people make this vow. So since you broke this vow, you have to die, because what the king says, everyone has to follow through. So that's basically what happens, from here on. It was so bad that the people were so hungry that they started just killing and slaughtering cows and animals with the blood in them. And the people were telling Saul, saying, like, look, the people are sinning. They're so hungry, they're eating the food with the blood in it. And Saul's like, all right, let me, cancel the vow now. It's done. So now back with his son, though. Go to verse 42. Jump down.
And Saul said, cast lots between me and Jonathan, my son. And Jonathan was taken. Then Saul said to Jonathan, tell me what thou hast done. And Jonathan told him and said, I did but taste a little honey with the end of the rod that was in my hand, and lo, I must die. And Saul answered, God do so and more also, for thou shalt surely die, Jonathan. And the people said unto Saul, shall Jonathan die who have wrought this great salvation in Israel? God forbid. As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he hath wrought with God this day. So the people rescued Jonathan, that he died not.
So this was, again, an instance where you had two things going against the word of Saul, which, again, was not the word of the Lord. It said, look, for one, Jonathan was not even there when the vow was made, so how could he even keep it, ignorantly or not? That doesn't make any sense. And then two, it was only because of your son that we were able to even, go in and slay the rest of these Philistines. His son was one that sparked the Most High to begin to help them. It wasn't because of Saul. So the people are like, nah, we're not going to let, your son is not going to die because he didn't keep your vow that made us sin by eating all the blood. So the people, saved him out of the words of the king, which goes really to even say too that when Samuel said, hey, I'm about to find another one to anoint that's going to be better than you, that's how much, in the spirit of things, how much authority Saul was losing or really had up to that point, from just all these little things trickling down. But, Saul was given another chance too. He had another instruction and commandment from the Lord, just to, prove and to see if he would be willing to be a worthy king over Israel. In chapter 15, verse 1. So Samuel is about to give Saul another instruction.
Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way, when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass.
So that was the specific instruction that Samuel gave to Saul. Kill everything from man and woman, which includes the king, and all of their flocks, all their animals. Everything's got to get done up with. So that was the instruction from the Most High for Samuel again. And to keep it brief, Saul doesn't keep that instruction. What he does is he basically does about 87% of the job. He kills all the people there, save the king and the actual flocks. And his excuse was, well, I saved the flocks because we can make these as sacrifices for the Lord. Even though the Lord said, I don't want those flocks for sacrifices. I would have told you that I wanted those things. I said, exactly, I said utterly destroy everybody there and their animals. So when did I require you to make sacrifices from animals that I deemed unworthy? But that's what Saul, in his mind, thought was the right thing to do. And Samuel lets him know. Jump down to verse, jump down to verse 14.
And Samuel said, What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in mine ears, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. Then Samuel said unto Saul, Stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord hath said to me this night. And he said unto him, Say on. And Samuel said, When thou wast little in thine own sight, was thou made the head of the tribes of Israel, and the Lord anointed thee king over Israel? And the Lord sent thee on a journey, and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. Wherefore then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord? And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag and the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, Have the Lord as great delight in burnt offering and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than that fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king.
So again, you see Saul, working towards his own self-interest, which, again, he believed was in the self-interest of the people, but never considering the interests of the Most High God, Yahweh. And it's crazy because Samuel first tells me, remember when you were little in your own eyes? When you were first, humble, you didn't think much of yourself. You told you about your stock, but now you're in this position of power, and you've just skyrocketed in your own head and thinking that everything that you're doing the Most High is with. You're being prideful, and that's not working out for you, and it hasn't worked out for you from the last 2 times. And the second time was just the icing on the cake to see that you're not fit to be the king over Israel, because you're not acknowledging who the real king is, which is the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. You're trying to become equal in that sense and rule the people, but that wasn't your directive. So now you officially, the kingdom is not going to be passed down through it's not going to be the Benjamites. We're going to find somebody else. So Saul's basically dang, yeah, you're right, I sinned, that makes sense. Now that you tell it to me like that, but just still, when I come back with you, just honor me, honor me because, this was the anointing that the Most High does. So Samuel does that. They go back, it's kind of like one of those awkward things where it's just I'm walking with, somebody that I respected and I like, but he just messed up. he just messed up right there. So it's dang, man, yeah, read that.
And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord.
So right there even said too, again, the level of love that I mentioned earlier that Saul had for the people, but he loved them more than loving the Most High. You can't. That's a great quality when you have. They call that emotional intelligence, to where you can just feel the vibes of people and you can work with them. But again, the balance with that is you still got to stand strong within, not for your own self or your own identity, but for the identity of the Most High. The Most High wanted something to be done like this. At that point, it doesn't matter what the other people want, what the rest of the people want. We're giving the Most High what he needs to do. But Saul wasn't able to control the people like that. He just basically let the people do what they wanted, which is why they kept the cattle and the flocks when he had all the power and authority to say something about that. But he feared the people. He loved the people too much in that regards. read from what I was saying. We could just go to chapter 16. So basically, Samuel's the one that kills Agag, king of the Amalekites himself, you know, and that task is now done. The Most High's work is still completed, but Samuel had to be the one to intervene to do that, and it wasn't even Saul. So chapter 16 from verse 1. So basically the official resignation in the spirit of Saul, you know, begins from here.
Chapter 16 and verse 1. And the Lord said unto Samuel, how long wilt thou mourn for Saul, seeing I have rejected him from reigning over Israel? Fill thine horn with oil and go. I will send thee to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided me a king among his sons. And Samuel said, how can I go? If Saul hear it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, take an heifer with thee, and say, I am come to sacrifice to the Lord.
So yeah, now Samuel's basically about to anoint for the future and the future lesson, King David, you know, as a little kid right there. But even before David became king, the Most High put it to a position towards like David is going to be utilized for Saul, you know, and basically his military, you know, to actually put David in these ranks as time was coming to pass. So David gets anointed, you know, but his time isn't yet, and Saul is still, you know, reigning. But these are the things that the Most High now has done to Saul. Chapter 16, verse 14.
Let me skip to 14?
Yeah.
But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. And Saul's servants said unto him, behold, now an evil spirit from God troubled thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants, which are before thee, to seek out a man who is as cunning player on an harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit from God is upon thee, that he shall play with his hand, and thou shalt be well. And Saul said unto his servants, provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me.
And that man was David, you know, as a shepherd in the field. You got time, you know, amongst protecting your sheep. You have time to, you know, learn an instrument and be cunning like that. So that was David's task, and his draft, you know, like no different than we had to sign up for military draft in America. That was his draft card. You're gonna basically be my armor bearer, and you're going to play instruments for me to get this evil spirit off of me every time that it might, you know, come back and forth. And that's the, you know, and that's the power and the skill that David had in playing his instrument to shed that off of him. So the last instant that I'm going to I'll bring out is, and not to touch too much on David, but we're going to see how Saul seen the situation about the story of David and Goliath, but where Saul was and all that. And then from there, we're going to pretty much end the lesson. Go to chapter 17. And no, Saul was gone right there. Chapter 17 and verse 30.
And he turned from him toward another, and spake after this same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with the Philistine. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he's a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee.
And then Saul, at that point, he armored him. You know, he gave him a sword, chainmail, that David eventually was like, I can't even fit these things. I'm just going to go, you know, natural how I do these things. But it took David, you know, in his youth at that time, to explain to Saul, which is the same thing we read about all throughout the history. Yeah, I'm small, but I mean, I did this before with the help of the Most High, which is again reflective of Gideon, 300 against a company of 60,000. Jonathan, 2 against 20. Israel under Saul, you know, the 3,000 against 36,000. All these historical examples now just found within David himself as he goes against the giant Goliath. It's all the same spiritual parallel that David knew and understood. So therefore, he knew his history, and he had to remind Saul of the history too. And that Saul's like, oh yeah, you're right. Go for it. You know, the Lord be with you. But Saul at that point, unfortunately, he didn't have that type of understanding. He didn't have that type of faith and belief in the Most High at that point. And you've seen that because of the way that he operated and not even following the instructions of the Most High. So from there, you know, as the story goes, when we get into the next lesson with David, you know, we'll see more emphasis on David, but also just how far Saul himself will fall out of favor with the Most High, even falling into jealousy. But that's going to, you know, wrap it up for tonight in this world history lesson. Was there any, you know, thoughts you wanted to have and say about the whole situation of the story? Con. So hopefully you guys, you know, got enough out of that. Hopefully, again, it wasn't boring. Hopefully it was edifying. Hopefully these are things that hopefully if you didn't see yourself in these scriptures, we brought that to light for you guys. But man, even though reading the geography, history part of Israel can be a little daunting and boring with all the names and places, it's really, really good. When you can picture it in your head, it's good information to see how wars and battles are fought, and ultimately how the Most High is always going to utilize the smallest amount within his chosen people to take on ginormous tasks. So with that, y'all, we want to say good night, and we'll see you on the next lesson.